Chapter 6. The Young Girl as Compact Political Apparatus. More distinctively, but no less fundamentally than a commodity, the young girl constitutes an offensive neutralization apparatus. How could capitalism have managed to mobilize effects, molecularizing its power to the point of colonizing all of our feelings and emotions, if the young girl had not offered herself as intermediary? Like the economy, the young girl thinks she's got us by the infrastructure.
Look at the bright side.
Since history is happening on the dark side, biopower is available as a cream, pill, and spray. Seduction is the new opium of the masses. It is the freedom of a world without freedom, the joy of a world without joy. In the past, the terrifying example of a few liberated women was enough to convince the dominant powers of their chance to prohibit all feminine freedom. By sentiment, by physiology, by family, by sincerity, by health, by wants, by obedience to all the social determinisms, by all means, the young girl protects herself from liberty. Behind the appearance of a laughable neutrality, the most formidable of political oppression apparatuses is on the view in the young girl.
Is her sex like normal?
The young girl advances like a living engine, moved by and moving toward the spectacle. Domination and dominion has discovered a bias more powerful than the simple power of constraint, directed attraction. The young girl is the elementary biopolitical individuality. Historically, the young girl appears in her extreme affinity with biopower as the spontaneous addressee of all biopolitics, the one whom they address. Eating badly is a luxury, a sign of laziness. Disdain for the body is a completely complacent relation to self. The female worker must maintain her body, capital, in a gym or a pool. While for the student, more important are aesthetic activities, such as a dance, or the ultimate physical expenditure, the nightclub. The function of the young girl is to transform the promise of liberty contained in the achievement of Western civilization into a surplus of alienation, a deepening of the consumer order, new servitudes, a political status quo. The young girl advances towards the same endpoint as technology, the formal spiritualization of the world. Under the domination of the market, seduction immediately presents itself as the exercise of a power. The young girl has neither opinions nor positions of her own. She takes shelter as soon as she can, in the shadow of the victors. The modern kind of labor, in which a certain quantity of the labor force is no longer taken advantage of, but rather the docile exercise of certain human qualities, suits perfectly the mimetic skills of the young girl. The young girl is the cornerstone of the system maintaining the market order, and is at the service of all its restorations, because the young girl wants to fuck in peace. The young girl is the ideal collaborator. The young girl conceives liberty as the possibility of choosing from among 1,000 insignificances. The young girl does not want history. The young girl aims for the regulation of all the senses. In the world of authoritarian commodities, all naive praise of desire immediately becomes praise of servitude. There is no slave of semiocracy who does not also get a certain power out of it, the power of judgment, blame, or opinion. The young girl embodies the way in which capitalism has reinvested all the necessities from which it had liberated men, reinvested them in an unrelenting adaptation to the human world, to the abstract norms of the spectacle, and in the elevation of these norms. Both share the morbid obsession of remaining, at the price of frantic activity, identical to themselves. The narrow control and excessive solicitude displayed by this society toward woman expresses only its desire to reproduce itself identically, and to master its perpetuation. The American Academy of Political and Social Sciences, in a publication on the role of woman in modern America, which was made in 1929, concluded that mass consumption has made of the modern housewife less of a routine worker and more of an administrator and entrepreneur in the business of living. Stuart Ewan, Captains of Consciousness, Advertising and the Social Roots of the Consumer Culture. The initial form of biopower is a process of submission to and by the body. The spectacle keeps the body at bay through the excess of its evocation, just as religion evoked it by excessively prohibiting it. The young girl prizes sincerity, good-heartedness, kindness, simplicity, frankness, modesty, and in general all the virtues which, considered unilaterally, are synonymous with servitude. The young girl lives in the illusion that liberty is found at the end of a total submission to market advertising. But at the end of servitude there is nothing but old age and death.
Liberty doesn't exist,
says the young girl, walking into a drugstore. The young girl wants to be independent. That is, in her spirit, dependent on them alone. Any grandeur that is not also a sign of subjugation to the world of authoritarian commodities is that, in that case, consigned to the absolute detestation of the young girl, who's not afraid to speak of
arrogance, self-importance,
and even
contempt.
The young girl is the central article of permissive consumption in commodity leisure. In this spectacle, access to liberty is nothing but access to marginal consumption in the desire marketplace, which constitutes its symbolic core. The preponderance of the entertainment and desire market is one stage in the project of social pacification, in which this market has been given the function of obscuring, provisionally, the living contradictions that traverse every point of the fabric of imperial biopolitics. The symbolic privileges accorded by the spectacle to the young girl are her dividends for absorbing and diffusing the ephemeral codes, the updated users' manuals, the general semiology that they have had to dispense in order to render politically harmless the free time enabled by progress in the social organization of labor. The young girl, the mainspring of permissive discipline. The young girl, the agent coordinating the atmosphere and liveliness of the dictatorial management of leisure. Deep down inside, the young girl has the personality of a tampon. She exemplifies all of the appropriate indifference, all of the necessary coldness demanded by the conditions of metropolitan life. It matters little to the spectacle that seduction is hated everywhere, as long as people don't give themselves the idea that some plenitude could ever transcend it. When the spectacle attempts to praise femininity, or remarks fawningly the feminization of the world, one can only expect the cunning promotion of all manner of servitudes, the promotion of the constellations of values that slaves always pretend to espouse.
Ew, you're gross.
The young girl already represents the most effective agent of behavioral control. Through her, the dominant power has insinuated itself into the farthest reaches of everyone's life. The violence with which femininitude is administrated in the world of authoritarian commodities recalls the way that the dominant power feels free to manhandle its slaves, when in fact it needs them to ensure its own reproduction. The young girl is the power against which it is barbaric, indecent, and even downright totalitarian to rebel. In the world of authoritarian commodities, the living recognizes within themselves, in their alienated desires, the enemy's demonstration of power.